Hey everybody, Tom Barnes stories from the 78. Listen, we all have that one friend. When they tell a story, it's beautiful, it's masterful, it almost doesn't seem real. Either way, at the end of the story, you tell them, you gotta write this down, man. Well, my friend Cynthia Moore did just that. She came out with a memoir called Dancing on Coals, a memoir of an overperformer where she talks about growing up in the Bahamas to finishing school in Switzerland. She was an award-winning playwright. She became a therapist, all these things. Now she's here to discuss. Cynthia, how are you?
I'm great, Tom. Good to meet you. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And I'm talking to you from Berkeley, California. Is that right?
That's right.
Heard it's lovely this time of year in Berkeley.
Freezing cold, believe
Oh,
it or not.
well, look at that. I'm warmer than you are today here in Chicago, right in the middle of the country. We're at a balmy like 70 right now, which is warm for this time of year.
Unbelievable.
So I'm really excited to talk to you just because you have had many, you know how people say you've lived like 9 lives or 25 lives. Seems like that's your story. You know, you're the person that when you tell a story, your friends or people that you meet at a bar or when you're traveling, they say, you need to write this down. And you did, right?
Sometimes you got to tell the story in order to figure out what happened.
So was it tough to gather all of these different points in your life and decide what goes in the book, what doesn't go in the book? Because a lot of the stuff you write about is pretty, I mean, it's revealing, it's a little, you're vulnerable when you are writing. And I guess that's what makes a great story. But I imagine it was a little bit of a therapeutic.
It was, and it wasn't so hard picking out which scenes to talk about because I had a trajectory. I wanted to write about the trajectory from being driven and sort of desperate for affirmation and validation and being in the theater, and how that transitioned to more of a coming to peace with myself and coming into a state of acceptance with my life. So a lot of the scenes that happened in my life didn't fall into that category. So it was pretty clear what to write about and how to shape it.
And your book starts off with talking about where you are, not where you finally met. I think it was domestic bliss, is what I read about how you've gotten through this journey and you're finally at peace or happy where you are now. And then you kind of go backwards from there.
Exactly. The prologue starts where I have finally come to terms with my life. And then I go back to the beginning and write about, how it started and why I was searching for belonging, and how I got sent away from my home at a young age. So I was looking for something to belong to, some place to call home. And I looked in all the wrong places for a long time. But I did have quite an exciting, challenging life as I was looking in the wrong places. So it was fun to write about anyway.
And did some of those times, I read a little bit too, where you started off in the Bahamas and then finishing school in Switzerland. So was that part of the not trying to figure out where you belonged? Because where were you born?
Well, I was born in Rockford, Illinois.
What? The home of Cheap Trick? Look at that. I didn't know that. I apologize
Yes.
for not knowing that fun fact about you. But
Uh-huh.
Rockford, Illinois. So you know a little bit about the Midwest and Chicago.
I
So,
sure do.
oh
I
man.
sure.
Well, what brought you from Rockford eventually out of the country to go to school?
Well, my family was in Beloit, Wisconsin.
Well, very familiar with Beloit too. I've been there
Yeah.
many times.
Yeah. So my dad was in Beloit. So I went back and forth to Beloit from Nassau, the Bahamas, where I went to school because my parents got divorced and my mother moved to the Bahamas. So, yeah, I'm familiar with Beloit, flying into O'Hare to see my dad, uh, going to Riverview. I don't know if you remember Riverview. It might have been before your time, a great amusement park in Chicago.
Oh yeah, yeah, right on Addison, right there,
Uh-huh.
right by WGN. Well, it
Uh-huh.
was by WGN. I think it's a Jewel now, but
Uh,
yes, I am
yeah.
very familiar with Riverview. Everybody of a certain age has like little mementos of Riverview, and actually, my softball bar for about 10 years was Riverview Tavern.
Oh, wow. It
Yeah.
was amazing, amazing place. So they moved to the Bahamas, and then, as I say in the book, it was a British colony when I was growing up, and
Mhm.
then when I was 10. The Bahamians took the government back, much to their credit. It was about time. They had been ruled by the British for a long time.
Yeah.
So at that point, my parents decided to move to Switzerland. They put me in boarding school. So I was 11 when I got sent to boarding school. It was actually finishing school.
Right. Well, I mean,
Do I
that had to
look
be
finished?
tough. I
Think
mean,
I'm
that
finished?
tough. Just I know, tough to go from the Bahamas to Rockford. I imagine. Then, when you say your parents, you mean like your mom and your stepdad? Then out to Switzerland. So your parents were like, "I'm done with the U.S." Your mother and your stepfather. I'm done with the U.S. We're gonna go and live our life over here, but you got to go see your dad in the Midwest of the United States. That alone have to be culture shock every which way, every runway you landed on.
It was really culture shock. It certainly was. I didn't have many friends in Beloit, Wisconsin, and I think they probably thought I was a bit of a snob because I was coming from Switzerland. But I was just a little girl and I wanted to be friends anyway. So it was not a very comfortable situation when I was little.
So where did you find like your if you wouldn't mind, like the toughest part of your adolescence? Was it in Switzerland, finishing up school, trying to find your way in the world afterwards, or was it a little bit later in life? Because you talk about, the bliss that is now, but that is several years after the period of time that you're talking about.
Right. I would say the hardest part was being in boarding school at 11, and I was the youngest by about 4 years. It was actually ninth through 12th grade and I was 11. I don't know how that worked, but I
Oh yeah,
didn't
the
have
math
many
doesn't math.
friends. Yeah, the math does not add up. And I just wanted to go home desperately, and I begged my mom to bring me home, and she couldn't. She was struggling with her own challenges. So I understand that now, but at the time I didn't understand that. So that was heartbreaking for me. So I'd say that was the point of, we all have a point in our lives where our heart breaks and we have to spend the rest of our lives recovering.
Yeah.
For me, that was my point. And so I decided to just go full tilt ahead and started joining crazy theater companies and wild acrobatic, athletic, masculine theater companies, and thought I could prove myself that way. And didn't work out so well. Well, I mean, it worked out, but it wasn't the answer I was looking for.
No, I imagine as soon as you started getting involved in that in the way that people tend to do in theater or anything that they truly either love or they're doing it because they want to prove something to themselves, at some point you're like, the cup is never full, right? Like you just keep
Exactly.
drinking and in the cup, or you keep filling it up, but it seems to never be full. So what like guided you out to make a decision to go outside of that to really start finding yourself and finding your journey of coming to where we are today?
Well, I think you're exactly right. The cup is never full, and at some point, if you're lucky, you realize that you're trying to fill a leaky cup,
Hmm.
and that you got to look elsewhere for that fulfillment. Where is it? And so I decided to leave the theater, and when I started to train as a psychologist, train as a therapist, took a master's degree in clinical psychology, and I loved it. It was just what I needed, turning inwards instead of turning outwards and getting to know myself and actually being able to sort of reclaim some of the feelings that I had stuffed away as a teenager and work through those so that I began to find some self acceptance that was really authentic and legitimate self acceptance, not coming from the outside, but coming from the inside. And also, I have to say, I met my husband, who is a very grounded, practical, um, energetically calming force. He's an auto mechanic and his feet are firmly on the ground. And he really helped me stabilize at a time when I needed it. So I give him a lot of credit for that part of my journey as well.
And your husband's name is David, correct?
That's right.
So, do you remember the first time you met David?
Um, I think I met him in Berkeley. Yeah, I don't remember the first time I met him actually. Oh, I do remember the first time I met him. Yeah, we were looking at a motorcycle to drive back to. We were in college in Yellow Springs, Ohio, at Antioch College, and
Oh,
we were looking for a motorcycle to drive back across the country. So we had David check it out for us, my boyfriend at the time.
you
So,
had a boyfriend at the time?
yeah,
Well, it sounds like it was more than checking out just the bike, Cynthia.
well,
That's
that's
what I'm saying.
right. Checking out the mechanic as well.
Absolutely. So in all of your stories that your collections that you put together here in this memoir, I imagine the going to school and learning how to be a therapist was also like going to therapy for you, right? To all of a sudden, did things just kind of fire off in your brain where like, oh, mom's this way because this happened, my relationship with my dad is this because this happened and I was this years old and whatnot. I mean, I imagine through that journey, you had to forgive your parents and yourself probably to move forward. I mean, how did that work out for you?
Yeah, it's true. It's absolutely true. You have to do a lot of therapy to become a therapist. And
I bet.
and like it or not, it's a painful journey, but it's very important. And it was about going through those hard times. And I think that all peace is hard earned that way, that peace comes from really being able to sit in the pain of what happened in the past and process it and metabolize it in a way that it becomes something that you're not spending your whole life continually skirting or trying to avoid, which most of us do, frankly. So it's you kind of have to learn the skill of how to hang out there and how to be with yourself in the uncomfortable places.
Yeah, be vulnerable, right? Like, oh, it's tough. I've gone through, things in my life as everybody has. I don't think anybody can escape bad things happening to them or
Yeah.
challenging things. Maybe don't use the word bad, but either way, it's how you react afterwards. I mean, of course, how you get through it, right? But then what did it teach you in the end? Because I haven't met too many people who said something that was difficult didn't teach them something, about themselves, about
Absolutely.
life, how to handle oneself. I imagine, do you recall a point in all of that schooling and just that self discovery where you were like, I deserve better than this. I deserve a partner like Dave without me even knowing that it was Dave at the time, but like, I deserve this. Cause I personally have gone through relationships where you kind of just, because you put people on pedestals and you do the thing that you do, and then you're with that person that you put on said pedestal, and then you realize, uh-oh, like this might not be the person for me, even though they were on a pedestal, because they don't treat me the way that I feel like I deserve. And that takes a lot for people to admit, especially when they are so like infatuated with people or they think they deserve the love that they get, which isn't true. But I feel like that's what that people get in that rut where they just sit there and take it over and over.
Mhm, mhm. I think so. We're a little addictive that way, aren't we? We try to find something and we're barking up the wrong tree to find it. And I think the real secret comes in letting go and giving up. There's a great lesson in giving up and going, I don't know. I can't handle this. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know how to do this. And you let go of control. And
Yeah.
there's a story in the book where I'm in the ocean in Hawaii and I'm almost drowning. And I finally let go of control because I realize I can't fight these giant waves that are smashing me down. And the minute I surrendered, I was washed up to shore.
Wow.
And that's a metaphor, isn't it? For when life is just dealing you enough blows and you go, I give up. And then a door opens. And for me, it was the door to going back to school and becoming a therapist. And it was also the door of Buddhist meditation. I did a retreat with Jack Cornfield, who's a Buddhist meditation teacher out here. And that changed my life. It just opened up a whole vista of possibilities and really drew me inside rather than outside.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That's, a lot of people. I mean, in the book, you share lots of those types of stories, but putting yourself out there to be vulnerable. I imagine is just, are you proud of what you did by being able to be strong enough to write all this down and expose it to everybody in the world, including your husband and your family?
You know, here's the irony. I wrote this book. I started writing it about 20 years ago, and the first version of it, I showed it to an editor, and the editor said to me, "You're not vulnerable. You gotta get vulnerable." And I was like, "What? What is that? What do you mean?" And I think it took me about 10 years to figure out what that even looks like, because I was just writing this sort of clever, funny, laugh at me, let's all laugh at my antics story, and I had to figure out what that means to get vulnerable. So thank you for noticing that. It took a lot of work.
Yeah, I imagine it was like stripping, the layers of paint off an old window to finally get down to the raw wood, right? And then paint it all over again. That's kind of the vibe I got that we've been talking about here. That certainly is in the book. Is there a vignette, as I like to call them, that stands out more? You mentioned the Hawaii one. Is there another one that stands out that you really? It's just that one that's special to you.
Uh, well, there's a moment. One of my favorite moments is I did we used to do what we called vision quests out here with a teacher that we had that took us out into the wilderness, and we would be in nature for a couple of days and fasting. And I had this fear of mountain lions, and I was just terrified that there
Yeah.
was going to
Well,
be a
I don't blame you.
And I had been fasting for 2 days, and I woke up in my tent, or I was in my tent, and it was just dusk, and I was about to go to sleep, and I heard something, and I cracked the doorway of my tent, and I looked out, and there was a mountain lion drinking from a stream 10 feet away from me.
Hmm.
And because I had been there for a couple of days and I had dropped in and I was slow, I wasn't afraid. I was just struck by wonder. And that moment was such an opening for me, because it wasn't about fear. It wasn't about, oh my God, I've got to run from this lion. It was about, we were both inhabiting the earth at the same time, at the same pace. And I knew it was a she. I don't know how, but I knew she wasn't going to bother me.
Hmm.
And she had her drink and she wandered off. And I just uh, said, hallelujah.
Well, talk about letting go, huh? Like the fear mecha, the flight or fight did not kick in for you. More of calm, which that sounds wonderful to be able to access that part of your psyche to be calm in a moment like that. You talk to people who have survived or who are trained, like military soldiers and stuff like that who have been trained where their heartbeat almost goes down in situations where everybody else heart rate races, right?
Yeah.
So kind of a little bit of that happening there. I mean, imagine when that was done, you probably felt like $1 million
Mm.
because of what you saw, how you felt, the connection to the world, the universe, the earth, all of that.
Yeah, spiritual moment, a spiritual moment. And actually, it's interesting you're talking about the nervous system, because that's something that I love to work with clients, is working with how to shift out of that fight flight state into the opposite state, which I call the ease and release state. And we can actually train ourselves to do that. And I think that's what we need to do in this day and age, with all of our nervous systems so jacked up.
Yep.
So that's really one of my crusades.
Oh man, I you were preaching to the choir. Fighting traffic in Chicago on a regular basis when the Kennedy's under construction will push anybody to the brink. So, woosah, as I say in the car. And I've been reading several books, and I've been fascinated by the nervous system and really kinetically, changing the way you think and the way you perceive the world and all that stuff. Whether people want to believe it or not, it has an effect, and I'm fully on board with that because I've seen the results myself. Cynthia, thank you so much for taking time to chat with me. It has been a pleasure. Before I let you go, you mentioned Rockford, Beloit. Do you have time ever to come back to this area of the country, or is it like one of those areas you're like, I don't know if I need to go back?
I love the Midwest. I love summers in Wisconsin. There's
Oh,
nothing like it. The black-eyed Susans on the side of the road. I used to ride my bike up and down those country roads, so I love coming back. I don't have a lot of reason to these days, but um, it's a great part of the world.
If you are you a Frank Lloyd Wright fan?
Not so much, but he was up there, wasn't he?
Yeah, yeah. The reason why it's called like Taliesin or something like that, where it was like his compound that's up near Madison,
Oh,
Wisconsin. And I never knew it existed until a couple years ago. And I went up there and did a story up there. It's gorgeous. It's
oh,
beautiful. And it's in the middle of nowhere. You're driving in central-ish Wisconsin, right? Just outside of Madison, just I think believe west of Madison. And there it is, just through a couple of hills, the prairies, and all of a sudden there's this big sprawling wonderful compound that is all Frank Lloyd Wright, which is
mm.
very historical. So I was trying to think of something for you to come back to. But Beloit does have a minor league baseball team, and they just opened a brand new minor league baseball field. And
Oh,
they're downtown. I'd be willing to bet you wouldn't recognize their downtown because it has been redone. They have really zhuzhed up the riverfront, and there's all sorts of things. So think about it on the especially July Midwest. There is
oof,
not a better part of the country to enjoy a long summer day and a short summer night.
beautiful. Thank you. I'll
No
remember that.
problem. Thanks for talking with me. I appreciate it very much. Oh, and the book coming out March 25th. Is there spots that you want people to go specifically to buy Dancing on Coals, I should say?
You can buy it from Barnes and Noble. You can buy it from Amazon. You can order it from your local bookstore. And there is also going to be an audio version available too. And it will be out next week.
Audio version with your voice?
Yep, with my
Oh, look
voice.
at that. Fantastic. Well, thanks
Yeah.
again for taking time to chat with me.
Thanks, Tom. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.